Today's educational speech is about controlling your fear in public speaking. That should be, tacked on to the end of it. And the reason that I wanted to talk about that in particular is that usually when I talk to people about, why are you stuck? How come there's no speech scheduled for you in the next 6 months? Oftentimes it comes down to a couple of different things. One, it seems that people may feel that they don't have enough efficiency in preparing speeches, right? And the second one is about nerves. How do you handle the nerves, especially when you're early on in your CC, Competent Communicator Progress? That first speech can be daunting, but then the second and the third and the fourth, up to number 10. Therefore, I thought it would be a really good idea to talk about how you control this, how you can manage it a little bit better. Now, Toastmasters itself has a great book on this subject, and they have 3 great tips. I will add 2, so you're going to 5. The first one, which I wholeheartedly agree with from Toastmasters, is, frankly, you just have to get up here. There's no other way to get over it. I'll give you a couple of examples here. A lot of you in the room know Alexis O'Donoghue. And I think that a lot of you would say that she has a very professional presence up here. And there's a reason for that. She has been on stage since she was in utero, literally. Her parents were Shakespearean actors in London, England. Therefore, her mother was pregnant with her when she was doing the role of Juliet in London, back in, I won't say what year. Therefore, Alex, her whole life, has been in front of groups, large and small. And because of that, over the years, she knows that nerves are just kind of part of the story. That's just kind of part of the game. It's what you have to learn how to deal with. Because there are times that, believe it or not, Alex also can be nervous. Depends on the situation, depends on the context, but she also knows, she's had enough history to know, that I'm not going to die. The floor is not going to open up and swallow me. She's had horrible things happen on stage. She's fallen off stages. She's done all kinds of things that, would be totally embarrassing. But she's had them happen, and she knows, okay, the show goes on, everything's fine, and you learn that it's really not a big deal. Secondly, for me, I think it would be surprising for you to know that as a child growing up, my goal was to not speak. I wanted to be invisible to the world. So I made it my goal most every day to not speak at all. So how in the world did I get from there to here? Part of it is, early in my career, I was facilitating meetings, facilitating training, things like that. But I had this sense that I was actually a pretty good teacher. So eventually, in the year 2000, I started teaching part-time at a university. My first class was atrocious. It was terrible. I was not prepared. Part of the problem, I learned later, was that my mentor did not give me a good idea about how to handle class size. It's really different to prepare for a class of 20 as opposed to a class of 6. I had a class of 6. So I'd get about halfway through class and really have nothing else to say. Talk about embarrassing, talk about really stressful, all that sort of thing. And I went and asked some people, what should I do? How do I get through this? All that sort of thing. And finally, the dean, she asked me one day, she said, I hope you'll teach another class. Do you think you will? Has this experience soured you on teaching? And I said, no, I have learned over my career that you can't make a decision on your first experience. Just like you, when you do your competent communicator, your first icebreaker speech, you can't make a decision on how great of a speaker you are on that first experience. Because you start where you start. But the next time you do it, and the next time you do it, and the next time you do it, you get better and better and better. And, thankfully, I went back. After a while, I was teaching so much, you get over it. Right? So I expand upon that one point because it's critically important. If you haven't had a speech in the last 6 weeks, 2 months, then you need to get that flag staked on the ground that says I'm going to do it in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever it is. And in fact, I'm going to start sending around a little sign-up sheet. There we go. There we go. So choose a date. Make a bold statement. There we go.
I'll keep one for you.
All right. Very good. The second point that Toastmasters International gives us is to visualize. I personally don't think that's really good for somebody that's really starting out in public speaking, because you don't have a whole lot of experience to kind of go off of to paint a rosy picture of what it's like up here, right? The fear sort of negates any pretty picture that you could have in your head. So what I would rather you insert as far as visualization is to think about it as self-talk. There's nothing worse than to prepare your icebreaker, for instance, and go, and your mind is telling yourself, who am I? I'm nobody, blah, 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 whatever it is, that your mind might tell you that is so horrible about what it is that you're about to say. And then you hear that all the way up here, and then once you're done, you walk back and you go, oh, that was terrible. Oh, I should have said this, or whatever it may be. Self-talk is the one thing that you have to learn how to control. Be very aware as you're preparing a speech, or even in this room, what your brain is telling you. Critically important. The next thing that Toastmasters, the third point that Toastmasters tells us, is to relax. That is funny, I think. Especially for beginning speakers. There could be nothing more terrifying than getting up here to speak to people. So what I'd rather you think of in terms of relaxation is really about breathing. You have to learn how to manage your breath while you're up here. One of the things, if you'll notice those that appear to be at least somewhat calm when they're standing up here, giving a speech, is that for the most part, their mouth doesn't close. Why is that? Because you need that free flow of air, and it's easier with your mouth open. Okay. Otherwise, you will start to hyperventilate. You may feel like you want to pass out. All kinds of horrible things can happen if you don't learn how to breathe while you're up here. Now, that takes some conscious effort, and it may actually require a coach to help you, and Alexis is really good at that. She's great at teaching people how to breathe. All right. Now, the 2 tips that I want to give you that are from me personally, all right? These are not Toastmaster tips at all. The 4th tip that I want to give you is that nerves are actually a good thing. You cannot eliminate them. You shouldn't eliminate them. And the reason for that is because nerves, to me, the way that I translate nerves anymore, is the fact that nerves make me prepare. If I didn't have a little bit of nervousness before doing a speech, and I promise you, every time I give a speech, I'm like, I'm doing exactly like you all are probably. Who am I to say this? What great, oh my God, And so I have the same kind of things, but I've learned how to corral them and everything. And I know that this is really not a big deal. The nerves help me to prepare. They make sure that I know what it is that I'm going to talk about. It helps me to make sure that I practice and all that. And therefore, some nerves is good. The nerves that keep you from coming up here, bad. Okay? You got to find that way to overcome it. And finally, my final tip for you. All right? And I had actually asked Chris before today if she would be willing to volunteer, not knowing what she was going to do during my speech. So Chris, what I would like for you to do is to give us a very short, 30 seconds or less, description of what you do for a living.
Good afternoon. My name is Redmond, and I am the plant manager for Cambridge Seafood, and we have a processing facility right around the corner where we process frozen seafood from raw material all the way to finished goods. So I oversee the crew that does that, as well as their QA, their R&D, the engineering, and all the support functions that it takes to run that plant.
Wonderful. Thank you. One of the best things that I ever heard anybody say, as far as learning how to speak in public, was, he said, when you prepare for a talk that you're going, or a presentation that you're going to do, think of this one question. You might want to write it down. His question was, what is so cool about what it is I'm about to say? So, Chris, what I'd like for you to do, as I'm continuing to talk for a little bit, is to think about how would you present what you do for a living in a way that really focuses on what is so cool about what it is that you do. Okay? Now, what's interesting about this is that it will completely change the energy with which the words are spoken. It will completely change how it lands upon you as an audience member. And it will provide for you as a speaker some excitement that can replace the nervousness. Okay? So do you have an idea about what you want to say? All right. Here we go.
Okay, what's so cool about what I do is that I love to get up and go to work every day. And the reason why I love to go to work every day is because we make awesome products. There are people out there that depend on us to make great quality food that is safe. But not only that, I love the people I work with. And the people I don't, that's real world. It's a bit of a challenge to make the product and to work with all the people, and it's just an honor to get to work with people and be a part of their journey while we all grow the same bees. That's pretty cool about my job.
Thank you. Now, wouldn't you say that the second delivery is vastly different than the first? Plus, for you, Chris, how did it feel doing it the first way versus the second way?
Second way, I couldn't wait to talk. The first way was okay.
There we go. Yeah, so if you focus on what is so cool about what it is you have to share, then you'll come up here and you'll actually have a conversation with us all, and it won't be like you're trying to memorize every single word. It'll be, I know what I want to talk about conceptually, and it just is going to flow out of you. So, with those 5 tips, hopefully, each and every one of you will put your name on the list to do a speech.